Welcome back to the Accountability Hour, the podcast where we tackle double standards, self-improvement, and the messy realities of relationships. This is Lynn Watchhorn. What is one of the most toxic manipulation tactics you might be falling for in your relationships? Imagine you're pulling a slot machine. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. That's literally the same psychology in this, and it's keeping you stuck in a dead relationship. So this is called intermittent reinforcement. So what is it? Basically, you're rewarded inconsistently. Not necessarily every time, not never, just enough to keep you hooked. That's why I use the slot machine example. It's basically like that, or like buying a booster pack of Pokemon cards. You have no idea what you're going to get, and sometimes you get some really good results, so it makes you want to keep playing. In relationships, this lever is your effort, your apologies, caretaking, sex, availability. The payout is attention, affection, validation, thank yous, or all change. And you go through this toxic cycle over and over again. And to be fair, sometimes people don't really realize they're doing it. But if you're aware of it, you can start to decide if you're okay dealing with it, or you can point it out to your partner. So you'll get like an affection spike, love bombing, charm, future talk, apologies. And then you get the withdrawal where they go cold and distant. All of a sudden they're so busy, they're annoyed by you, you get the silent treatment. And then out of nowhere, you get the affection again, but maybe less so, like a text, a weekend together, one great night, or, oh, I'm working on myself, whatever it is. And then your brain tells you, okay, I just gotta try harder and then I'll get the jackpot again. And then you go through the entire cycle again, and again, and again. And people who are really toxic, they usually know what they're doing with this. They do it on purpose. Because they know this is what gets you addicted to them. That's why if you've seen any dating advice for women, other women are actually encouraging women to do stuff like this. Don't chase, pretend you're not interested, play hard to get. Because there's unfortunately psychology tied into this, and it typically does work. I don't agree with it, it's not okay, but women have found results, and that's why toxic women take full advantage of this. And the thing is, in life, unpredictable rewards will spike our dopamine even more than the steady rewards. So you're not really chasing her because you love her, you're chasing her for that specific hit. That's why, again, you open a booster pack of Pokemon cards, it might be a little bit more exciting than getting your weekly paycheck from work because you already know what the paycheck's going to be. But you might be getting that Charizard the next pack you open, so... And if you or your partner or both of you have attachment issues and you're not securely attached, this also plays into it if one of you is anxious and the other one is avoidant. It's the anxious avoidant dance if you've heard of it. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce his name right, but if you want to read more into that, you can read the book called Attached by Amir Levine. Next, the good moments that you have become that evidence that you cling to. See, they can be great, they can be awesome, they can meet all of my needs, which blinds you to the overall pattern you're playing into. Like, most of the time your needs aren't being met, but every once in a while your needs do get met. So you're like, okay, I've got to stay in this. When the reality is you're really not getting what you want very often. And then, of course, the sunk cost also ties into this, because the more you invest, the harder it is to admit it's not working. So you rationalize in order to stay in the relationship, even though it's driving you kind of crazy. I know a lot of people that they're not even happy in their relationships, but the only reason they're staying is because they've been with so-and-so for this many years, and I feel like a lot of us are guilty of this in some situations, not even just relationships, but with everything that we do. Maybe you've been at your job for a long time and now you don't want to quit because, you'll lose seniority or any benefits you get from the job from being there so long. And then, of course, the scarcity mindset. You might believe that what you have is extremely rare and you'll never find it again. When the reality is the attention they're giving you is actually scarce. And you might be happier with someone more consistent. So for a lot of men, intimacy is a big piece of this. After conflict, it's withheld, and you have to overperform, whether give her gifts or do favors for her or just comply with whatever she wants. Otherwise, you don't get any intimacy. You might deal with a woman that's consistently distant with you and then overly sweet if you talk about leaving the relationship or even just going out with your friends. I've heard of some women doing this to encourage you just to stay home. Maybe she posts all these cute little posts about you all over her social media, but in person she's rotten to you. And this can slowly erode your self-confidence and everything. It will just make you feel hollow. Okay, and to be fair, sometimes inconsistency is good in a relationship. It can be because of the surprise aspect. But it needs to be within reason, and there needs to be you need to be able to count on them when things get hard. And ideally, that randomness brings delight into your relationship. Like, she surprises you with something. It's not unpredictable that gives you major anxiety. Like, she's canceling on you. She's hot and cold, silent treatment. That's the unhealthy version. Next, maybe she screws up and she repairs her mistakes with accountability and change behavior. But in a toxic situation, your only reward is sorry you feel that way. And then the behavior immediately repeats. So nothing got resolved. Next, in a healthy relationship, the surprise is never used to erase the harm. In this situation where it's toxic, good moments are weaponized to reset the scoreboard. It's healthy when the unpredictability increases safety and connection with the other person, but if it increases obsession, self-doubt, or caretaking, that's intermittent reinforcement. Okay, I'm going to call you out a little bit here. Do you tolerate bad weeks because you're chasing that one perfect day? Does a single compliment for you wipe out weeks of her neglecting you? And are you putting more energy into the relationship after she withdraws? When she sends you a text, do you feel more relief over joy because you've been waiting so long? If you answered yes to any of these, you're basically at the casino. You're not in a healthy relationship. This is unfortunately how a lot of men stay with women who disrespect and treat them like crap. Because it's not overly obvious at times. So you feel happy sometimes, you feel good, but the reality is you're really not being treated very well. How do you break this pattern? You need to realize what's happening and where it's happening in your life. You need to set boundaries on when you're going to pour more effort into any of your relationships. This can be romantic, your boss, work, whatever it is, friends. First of all, things need to be reciprocal. You're not sending 4 messages and then waiting for her to text back once. Now, to be fair, not everyone can give as much as they're getting all the time, but you need to feel like they're genuinely putting effort into the relationship. Next, they need to keep the plans they have with you. They show up on time. Or they give you notice if plans are going to change. And they need to be able to repair. If they make a mistake, they own it and they change their behavior. And if they're having trouble changing their behavior, they communicate that with you and they get the help that they need to fix the behavior if needed. And just so you know, when you stop overgiving in these relationships, they may pressure you, guilt you, or love bomb you. All of a sudden, they're the best you've ever had. They're amazing. And they're encouraging you to drop your boundaries. And it's okay to enjoy those nice gestures in the moment, but do keep in mind you've got to be consistent with those boundaries. Otherwise, they'll take full advantage and walk all over them. Now you have to think about consequences with your boundaries being violated. Whether you pull back and focus on yourself or what you do as far as the specific situation. And you should never have to announce it more than once. Also keep in mind if you drop 10 different changes on them, they may not be able to reasonably do that. One change at a time is easiest. And one thing I've noticed is sometimes when you point out the pattern to someone who's not toxic, who genuinely cares about you, they may have not even noticed, and you pointing it out and making them aware of it encourages them to make the changes necessary. And this does not mean perfection by any means, but you will see action being taken. A lot of men are taught to constantly rationalize everything a woman does. You guys are good at coming up with excuses for her. And while I believe everybody deserves a level of grace, I think a lot of guys take it too far because we live in a society where, you guys are supposed to take care of women and excuse her for everything she does, and that's not healthy for you. You're also often taught to prove your worth to her, and you really shouldn't have to do that. Especially in relationships where she's holding you to that standard, you can also hold her to that standard. You might say, okay, well, she was just stressed this week. Well, what about you? I'm sure you're stressed some weeks, and you still show up for her. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might benefit from it. If you'd like more content from me, I have a YouTube and a Patreon.